Hello everyone, and welcome to Board on a Shelf. I'm Antonio, and today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different than I have so far, and that is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, despite what I've talked about so far, and that is heavy board games. So heavy or strategy or Euro or complex or thick rulebook games, whatever you want to call it, those are games that actually make up the majority of my top games of all time, and I haven't talked about them. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you heavy Euro strategy games that I'm really enjoying right now. For this video, I plan on giving a hopefully quick overview of how the game works, what the game is, and more so focusing on what aspect of the game that I particularly enjoy and the mechanism or theme or who knows that keeps on bringing me back and makes me want to play it a lot right now. So these are games that I am just really excited to play more of. I want to show to people, I want to share with you, and with that, let's get started with the first game, El Grande. El Grande. So I'm just going to give a quick elevator pitch as to what this game is. The goal of this video isn't to teach you how to play, but just give you an idea of how to play it so that I can go into why I like it so much. So with that, let's look at the table. So El Grande is an area majority game, and what that means is that there are different regions of the board that you will score throughout the game that will give you points based on what rank you are there. So, example, if you look at Toledo, there are 3 purple presence units here, and there's 1 red. So when you're scoring this is first, second, and third place. You can see that in all the regions. First place would get 7, second place would get 4 points, and last place would get 2 points. 2 points. In this case, purple is the winner, so they get 7 points, red would get 4, and these are scored throughout the game based on the round that it is. So this is the round tracker right here. This is where you see the overview of the game, and there's round 1, 2, and 3. All of those rounds will consist of putting new people on the board, moving people around, and then after that round there will be a scoring round, and that's when you look at each section individually and you evaluate who has the majority in that region. Effectively, you score all the regions, you get your points throughout the game, and after the 9th round, there's the final scoring, and there's no special gimmicks there. It's all very straightforward. Whoever has collected the most points over those 3 scoring rounds will win the game. There are some very cool aspects to this that I like. The first is the action selection mechanism in this game. So throughout the game, you have both a supply, as in you have units that you cannot touch, you cannot place those units on the board, and then you have units in front of you, which you can place on the board, and through various ways throughout the game, you are kind of cycling through this pool, right? So you're taking units from your supply, putting them in front of you, and those units you can then place on the board. Okay, so that is just a general overview of the game. I want to go in specifically as to why I like this game so much. So there are a couple of very unique gimmicks that make this game more interesting than just your average area control game, right? Like Risk or whatever area control game you're thinking of. This one specifically is special to me because it feels so streamlined. There's nothing too out there that will maybe scare people off. There's just something familiar about it, and the little twists that it has makes it very appealing to me. So this game came out in the 90s, and this is now a reskin of that game with some added expansions in it, whatever, but I'm talking about the base game right now. And I didn't pick up this game because I thought it was ugly, and I thought it was just a dated area control game, and a little naive of me because just because it came out 20 plus years ago doesn't mean that it's a bad design. But I never thought it was a bad design. I guess I just assumed that whatever this did well, modern area control games had taken whatever elements from this game that they needed to, and area control games had just progressed since then. So I thought going back and playing a game would feel, a game from, like an older area control game would feel dated, and it didn't at all. So what makes this game so special is the action selection mechanism. Okay, this is amazing. So on your turn, at the beginning of the round, there will be a card selection / initiative selection phase, and you will take your hand of cards, which looks like this. So these cards have 2 things on them. They have numbers, which is your initiative, and they also have a number of meeples printed on them that you're going to add to your supply. And what that's going to do is that is going to determine when you go, like who goes first, who goes second, who goes third. You don't just go clockwise in this game, you go based on that initiative order. And that is also going to determine how many of your meeples you get from the general supply in front of you to then place on the board on your turn or in future turns. It just increases the resources you have to have influence on these various regions. And how many units you get to put on the board is determined by the card that you choose. So you will have 5 options. Those options, 4 of them will change every round. The last one over there, it's called Your Majesty, will not change. That card will always stay the same, and that will always be the level 5 card. But on your turn, you're going to choose one of those cards that has not been chosen yet. So if you go first, the world is your oyster. If you go last, you have one option. If you're playing with 5 people. The thing that's cool is that all of these cards are powerful. Some are more powerful than others, but it's inarguable that every card has its purpose and every card is useful in the right circumstances. So just an example, the top left card, the one in the 1 spot, and the reason I'm calling it the 1 spot is because at the bottom you'll see a different number of meeples. These cards, whatever card you choose, will allow you to take meeples from in front of you. So let's say I chose the second card, right? It has 2 of those meeples at the bottom. I would then get to take 2 meeples from my supply in front of me, and I would get to place them on the board. Placement in this game is also super interesting, and I'll just go over that very quickly. So on the board, there is a king, and the king, wherever he is on the board, determines where you can place these meeples. So if the king is here in Castilla, the only place I can place these meeples are in regions adjacent to the king. And that's it, okay? You cannot place them in the region with the king, only regions adjacent to it. So I could put them here, or split them, any of these regions. So the king determines where the center focus is of the game. And it's very simple. It can do 2 things mostly. It can either lock down a region. Well, it does 2 things. It both prevents people from putting units in a region and also dictates where people can put them on the board in their regular turn. So for this round, if the king was here, these regions are the focus, these 4 surrounding it. This one is off limits, and these ones, the surrounding like outskirts, nobody can put units there, at least with the cards, just the base level of the cards. So it really dictates the central focus of the game. So choosing these cards at the top really determines what you're going to do that round and how the round is going to turn out for you. So let's just say this one in the middle, Spectacle, it says score all regions with the most meeples. Okay, so if I play that card and I am green, that's a really good play because this region, Castilla, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meeples. So this would score immediately, which would grant green 6 points, purple 4, and red 2. Okay, so despite the general rule of scoring only happening during these 3 scoring rounds, these cards will break the game, right? Or let's say you can't put units on the board in any unit except for those adjacent to the king. Some of them will let you move the king, okay? Some of them will let you move units in other places despite that adjacency rule. So there are these very simple rules in the game, which is play a card from your hand at the beginning of the game. Once it's your turn, you select one of these cards and you put units on the board and you're going for area control of the various regions. Okay, simple baseline rules. However, what makes the game interesting are those little abilities. So those little abilities just add this perfect amount of spice to the game that makes me really want to come back because every game feels different. Each of those is a deck of cards except for the 5, and each game there's going to be different combinations of cards on the board. So the actions that people are going to take during a round are going to be so different every time you play. And the base, like the overhead rules of just the base game is so intuitive that those don't really feel overwhelming. This game just has this little appeal to it, that this little familiarity of area control and understanding majorities and scoring. And the scoring is simple. It's all laid out for you. There's not a lot of overhead. But those little cards just really add a cool element to the game. Basically, what I really enjoy about this game is the variability of these cards. I know some people might not like that because of the luck, but what I really enjoy about it is it takes a very, very simple area control game and transforms it into something that just has a little bit more fun to it and a little bit of unpredictability, but I think in the best way, because area control games can be so tight and so competitive, and this one feels that way, but sometimes you will fall behind or you won't get exactly what you want to, and sometimes it feels like it's equally as much your fault as it is the game's fault, and that kind of just puts me in a little bit of a sweet spot of not being too upset if I'm getting whooped on by somebody else. So So El Grande is a great area control game if you're looking for one that feels simple, feels familiar, but has a little bit of a twist on it that can make the game very interesting. So that's El Grande. All right, next up on the list is a game that I already know I'm going to have a very hard time explaining, so bear with me, and that is Kutna Hora. So Kutna Hora is a very interesting, strange Euro game. And by that, I mean that it employs an economy system that I have never seen before. And because of that, it is a very hard game to get a grasp on. And it's a hard game to win all the time because the mechanisms in this game are so innovative and so unique that it really does take a playthrough to sit back and be like, I really did not understand that. And that acknowledgement of not understanding that makes you want to play it again until you do understand it. But at least you don't have the barrier of just the overhead rules to get through. So now you can just focus on what makes this game very interesting, and that is the economy. So if you look down here, so on the board, this isn't a real setup for the game. This is basically what I would do if I were to teach somebody the game. Very quickly, I would just scatter things around, not set it up perfectly. So that's what this is. Please bear with me. A lot of these situations might not happen in the game, but my goal for this is just to show you how the game works very quickly. Okay, elevator pitch, ready, go. So on your turn, you are going to play 2 cards from your hand, and that's something that makes this game super cool, is this card mechanism. Okay, so this is what your hand looks like. So your hand of cards is the 6 different actions that you can choose throughout the game. Okay, so like for this card, this is the rights action and the cathedral action, or this is the mining action and the joker. Okay, so the actions that you can do in this game are all based on what cards you play. If on my turn I play this card, I have to choose to either use it as the income side or as the building side. And whatever side I use, I don't get to use the other side that round. You'll have your hand of cards, you'll play one, you'll choose which side you want to use, and then you'll do that action, and then you'll play another card, and you'll choose which side you want to use. Of course, before you play the card, you'll probably already know which side you want to use, but what makes that puzzle so interesting is, let me show you. So only 2 of my cards, each action is only on 2 cards, okay? So let's say I wanted to do a rights action that turn, but in an earlier turn I had played this card, and let's say I was like, oh, I want to do the St. Barbara action, right? So I'll play this card, I'll use the St. Barbara action, and then for my second action, I'm like, okay, I want to do rights. Oh, I don't have that. So I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. I should have played rights, whatever. That can happen throughout the game. And getting good at not doing that is very important. So what are the 6 actions? Okay, so I'm gonna go over the actions just very quickly so that I can then jump into what is very interesting about this game to me, and that is the economy system. So effectively, there are a couple of mini games going on. There are the mines, and throughout the game, you will be building mine tiles onto this board, digging down deeper and deeper, not too deep for the Balrog, but you will be placing your miners on these tiles in a small area control game. Let's say the game ends, which it would never, again, but let's say it ended like this. You would evaluate each row separately, see who has the majority, and give them points based on the power of that row. So power are these stars. So in this row right here, you'll see 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. So that puts this row in the 6 to 9 star scoring bracket, and whoever has the most power would win. So in this case, blue has 3 power, purple has 2. So blue would get 3 points, purple would get 2 points. Okay, so that is this mini game. You are spending, if you'll notice in these little things, you are spending wood to mine and to put your people out there. Okay, that will do a couple things. It has different effects. None of them are right there for some reason, but like this one. Okay, so let's hold this one up for you guys to see over here. So this one right here will have an impact on the coal market. It will give you immediate points, and it will also have an impact on your coal production. Okay, that's important. Everything you do in this game will eventually relate back to the resources that you produce and how much they cost. So that is mining. The next thing is the buildings. The buildings, building things on the board, there's 3 actions associated with that. The first one is plot. That is this green action right here. Plot, this top one, the bottom one is mine. If you plot, you will take a piece from your plot, these 3 plotters, and you will put them on one of the spaces on the board, okay? Once there are already buildings on the board, you will have to build next to those buildings. But at the beginning of the game, if there are no buildings on the board, you can plot wherever you would like to. There is a small mini game going on with that. Essentially, there is not small mini game. It's a pretty big part of scoring, but there are symbols on these cards. Okay, so let's show you this one right here. So this card has an orange symbol right here, and you are trying to get symbols next to each other on the buildings that you have. Okay, so like right here, there is a red symbol that's on the board already. So if I had a building on this after it's completely built, that is a good thing. Now I get 1 point because it has a matching symbol next to it. Okay, that is how buildings work very roughly. But ultimately what's going on is you are plotting on these lands on this empty board here so that you can eventually build something there. So if blue plots here and purple wants to plot, they can't plot there. Okay, that is a reservation. You have reserved that spot for a future building of yours. Then you can build a building there. So you will take this plotter off, you will pay the wood necessary once you've acquired that much, and you will build this building there. Okay, so you will pay 3 wood. What does that mean? I will still get there. Just know that in this game, any resources that you see ultimately boils down to how much money you spend. The only real currency in this game is coins. Okay, so you will build this, you will increase your wood production by 4, and the production level of wood in the whole economy will change. Okay, so you'll do that, you'll take your house for the matching thing. So in this case, you can build wood, so you would take this and put it here, and your wood production would go up accordingly. That's building. So ultimately, the 3 actions that relate to that are plotting, which is reserving a piece of land on the board, getting the rights, which is buying the building that you want to build or getting the rights for it and putting it in your little reserve slot up here. And then the last action being building, which is putting that building on the board onto a spot that you've already reserved with your plot marker. You have to plot before you can build something. The last action that I'm going to talk about is the St. Barbara action. Actually, I'm not going to talk about that. Basically, it's like a little mini game on the side, and you are building these various parts of this cathedral that'll give you various in-game benefits. Okay, it's kind of just like a separate island of a game, but it can be very helpful. But I'm just not going to explain it here. Finally, what you can do, and this all comes down to what everything kind of culminates to, is you can take income. And throughout the game, you are going to be increasing your production of various goods by building buildings of that type. So I'm going to try and show you this without it falling over. So this is an example player board, kind of. So on this player, no, that didn't work. So on this player board, you'll see these 3 things right here. So those are the 3 types of goods that you can produce, the 3 types of goods that you can make buildings for. They dictate what you have control over throughout the game. So this player right here can produce beer buildings, can produce wood buildings, and can mine for silver. Okay, so whenever you build buildings that do that produce for you. So let's see, like this player can build wood buildings. So let's say this one. Let's say he builds this. Okay, this is going to increase his wood production by 5. Okay, so what that means, he puts that on the board. He puts his little house on there. His wood production would increase by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blah, blah. What that does is whenever he takes income, I'm saying he, I'm imagining it's me, that's why. But whenever they take income, they will get paid for how much the price of wood is at the current economic state. Okay, so whenever they take that action, they will look at this right here. So in this case, this one, because this is wood, and they will get paid out. So let's say their production is 8 wood right now. So they'll take a look at this, and this gives 2. That means the price of wood right now is 2 per unit. Okay, so since their production is 8, they would get 16 coins from the bank. And that is effectively how the game operates. So you are building buildings to increase production, and when you increase production, you want to take income to get paid out for that. However, what makes this game even cooler than that already is this little twist that it has with how the economy works. It's very supply and demand theory, right? So this is the population stack. I'm just going to explain this one. The mining one is also super cool, but I'm just going to explain this one. So this is the economy for the population. This is the economy that's based on the population. This is the population deck. So whenever population increases, you're going to take a card off. And when it increases again, you're going to take off the next card. This is an entire deck of cards that has various numbers on it. Okay, and what that does is as population increases, effectively, the demand for a product is going to go up. What that means is if you're trying to produce wood, okay, you want the population to increase, because as the population increases, the price for that wood is going to go up and you are going to get paid out for the more buildings you have out. On the opposite side of that, the more buildings you put out is going to increase supply. And with an increase of supply, the price is going to drop, right? Because if the demand isn't increasing and only the price is increasing, that's going to mess up the price, whatever. So the tricky part about this game is that you are building buildings to increase the amount of production you have for a specific product. So you want to build buildings so that your wood production can go up. However, as you build things, the slider is going to move out. A little tricky sometimes. Right, so that'll move out and it'll keep moving out, blah, blah, blah. And what the sliders do is they symbolize the increase in supply. So what that does is it drops your price. So as you're building out buildings and you are increasing the production, you are therefore decreasing the value. And in order to increase the value, again, you want to increase the population, which sounds really messy, and it is messy, and I wish I could explain it better. But the truth is, I don't understand it fully, which makes the game so interesting. There's like a lot of very interesting interactions in this game. And one thing that you may have noticed is that to build any building, it costs wood. So the person who's producing wood wants wood to be expensive most of the time because they get paid a lot more when it's expensive and they play the income action. However, everyone else wants to build buildings, and if wood's expensive, it's expensive to build buildings. So like, if say the price of wood was $3 per unit, okay, so for this player to build this building, it costs 6 wood. So if a price of 1 wood is 3, then it costs that player 18 coins to build that. Like I said, everything in this game is based on coins. That really is the only resource, but the conversion is based on the economy of different goods. So this game has a lot going on. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but there's just something so intriguing about this economy that I love. And I love interactive games. I love table talk. I love, your decision impacts mine, and I love that variability that can bring to a game. So there's just so much to explore in this game right now, and I feel like after 5 plays, I've only scratched the surface. I'm finally beginning to understand the economy and how it works, and now I want to learn how to utilize it against my competitors, against my opponents. So this is a game that just is so intriguing, and if you're looking for something really different, and it's not going to be for everybody, I don't want you to think that it's perfect for everyone. It's not. Hopefully this explanation helped you get an idea, but this game is really good, so check it out. That's Kunahora. Nova Roma! Woo. Okay, so Nova Roma was recommended to me by someone at my local board game store. They specifically said, I know that the cover is ugly, and I don't know why they made it that way, but the game is really good. And I got it because I didn't think the cover was that ugly, but they told me about the game and like the central mechanism and the worker placement aspect of it, so I thought I would check it out. So with that, let me go into a quick overview of how the game works. Okay, so if you look at the board here, I have these tiles in my hand. This is the central mechanism of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and set these up. These are randomly shuffled at the beginning of the game and placed on this grid. So it is a 4x4 grid here, and each row and column has an associated action with it. So you'll see that these tiles that I'm placing on the board are called the forum tiles, and each tile represents a different action that you can take within the game. Okay, so I'm going to go over them briefly, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of how the game works. This is not at all a how to play video. Nothing on the board is even set up how it would normally be, especially on the player boards, but I will go ahead and explain this really quickly. Okay, so as far as mini games go, there are a few on the board. We'll start with this one, which is the build action. Okay, so the build action takes place over here in this corner. You can see the matching symbol there, and you'll notice that throughout the board. So like boats are up there and scroll, whatever. Okay, so for building, over here, you are going to first fulfill one of the building contracts. You will pick one that you have access to based on the strength of your action, which I'll go into later. And you will acquire that card, pay the resources at the bottom. So for the example, that first card requires a wood, a stone, and a coin. You will take that card, put it in front of you in your building area, which is that column down there. And you will take cubes of your color and you will put them on the board, okay, on one of these 3 regions. So like I said, for that one, you would pay a wood, a stone, and you would give up a coin to the supply. You would take that card and put it there, and you would take the 3 cubes, because you can see based on these pictures. So the first ones are the same. They have that 3 little layout. You see those little white squares, whereas that one on the end is only 1. And you would place your cubes on the board as such in any way that you want to, or in any place, as long as it is in the orientation of the building that you built. These different regions have area control mechanisms to them, so the scoring at the end of the game, whoever has the most presence in this region will get 5 points, this region will get 6 points, this region will get 7 points, first, second, and third place, and so on. Next up is this action. This is the produce action. What this action does is it allows you to hire artisans, these gray guys, and you can then place them onto your board. Okay, so this is, you have to pay food to hire them, and then you can place them onto your little grid down here. So this grid, whenever you put them, it'll let you get the bonuses of wherever you place them. So in this case, if I put him here, this would get me a stone and a wine, and here would get me a wood and a coin. With this action here, with the upgrade action, you'll be able to take tiles and put these on the board in order to get more bonuses. So you pay for these based on the market price, and then when you're able to put artisans on your player board with the produce action, like in this case, I would get 2 horses and a wood. The different things you put on there have various effects, but ultimately this action right here is to get new artisans and then place them on your board to get bonuses. This is the, I'm actually going to go into this one right away since they're related. This, like I said earlier, is the upgrade action. You get to shop from this market, either the basic tiles or the special tiles, and put them on your board. So this is just a little mini game that will allow you to get resources throughout the game, since resources in this game are pretty scarce and you're normally pretty resource starved. The next action is the boat action, or the sail action, and this is a very cool little rondelle thing going on. You will get to move your boat based on the strength of your action around this board. So there's one path going this way and another path going that way. Once you determine which path you want your boat to go down, you will start moving across these little sails you see right here. And how much you get to move is based on the strength of your action, which I still haven't gone into, and in hindsight, I probably should have gone over that first. But similar to the buildings, you will choose a boat in the market and you will pay its resources. Okay, so you'll notice that this one, if you have a strength 1 or more, you can choose between the first 2. If you have a strength 2 or more, you can choose between the first 3. And if you have a strength of 3 or more, you can choose between any of them. And you will pay the resources, take the boat, put it in your boat column over here, and you will move based on the strength of your action. So let's say, like right here, after you complete a boat card, you will move sails. You'll get sails equal to the strength of your action. So let's say the strength of my action was 3, and I was the blue player. If I wanted to go this way, I could go 1, get a coin, 2, don't get 3 points. That's later at the end of the game. And let's say I have one more sail to use, so then I'll go this way and get an influence on my influence track over here. So this is basically, you complete these contracts to move your boat. You want to get your boat as far as you can, because at the end of the game, if you get really far, you can get up to 14 points. Otherwise, you'll get the points, the highest points that you've passed. So that's just a way to get end game points, but also a very good way to get resources throughout the game. Okay, so that is the sail action. The next action that I'm going to go over is this one. This is the trade action. So the trade action is very simple. It's basically how you get coins. This action here is the chariot action, which is another mini game. And you'll see over here, you have these 3 tracks. Everybody has a carriage or a wheel, token on one of these tracks. And depending on the strength of your action, you will be able to move that track, move any one of your wheels forward. So let's say the strength of my action was 3 and I was the pink player. I could put all 3 on this one, 1, 2, 3. Or I could split it up, 1, 2, 3, or move them all up once, and so on. The point of this track, effectively, is to A, get as far as you can, because if you get to the end of the track, you'll get 5 points. Each round, there is a favored track, which is here, and whoever's furthest on this track, so in this case it's the blue track, will get a bonus 3 points. But effectively, you're moving your wheels up here, you're trying to be in the lead to get points for the round, and if you get to the end, you'll get points. Whenever you cross these barriers, you'll have to spend horses, so the horse resource is exclusively used for, well, not exclusively, but mostly used for getting further on this track. Okay, both the ultimate goal, getting to the end, getting the favorite track for the round, and also getting to these gold wheels in order to get influence or these favor tokens. Pretty much last is this action right here, which is the recruit action. This action lets you get cards from the marketplace or from the top of the deck, and these cards will have various effects. So this one, for example, is an ongoing effect. You can see that by the infinity symbol. And what she does is she gives you a bonus for whenever you take the carriage action. You will also get a coin. This woman, she's the shopkeeper. You can use it once per round, and whenever you take the trade action, you also get an additional strength when taking that action. This is an endgame person. You get 1 point for every card you have played in front of you at the end of the game. So these cards give you various effects. They are not to be slept on. I slept on them many times, and the end game specifically will give you very good things towards the end of the game. This game takes place over 5 rounds, so the once per round people are very useful at the beginning of the game, not as useful later, and the ones that give you bonuses whenever you go to certain actions can be very beneficial and can somewhat dictate the direction that you go throughout the game. This action right here, the recruit action, is also how you play cards. So you'll draw cards equal to your strength, and you will play one card and one card only, but the cost of that card is determined by the strength of the action. All right, so what makes this game super interesting is this 4x4 grid right here, which I've already gone over a little bit, but specifically how you take your actions. And in this video, I'm going to focus specifically on a 2-player game, because I think that the 2-player game of this is very interesting, which is not typical for 2-player variants, especially in Euro games. So on your turn, you're going to place one of your patricians on the board in any spot that you would like that is unoccupied. And you are going to take the actions corresponding to where you place that person. So here I would take this action and this action. And my strength for that would be 1 because I only have 1 patrician there. Then the next player would go. So the pink player would then place one of theirs wherever they want to go. Let's say they put it here. They would take the carriage action and the produce action, both with a strength of 1 because there's only one of their patricians in that given row or column. Then the blue player goes and say they put it here. They would take this action with a strength of 1 and this action with a strength of 2. So let's look over here to see what that means. Okay, so like for this action specifically, you'll see this multiplier by a little white silhouette. That is the strength of the action. So in this case, for this action, this player would get 2 influence, the blue player. So they would get 1, 2 influence because their strength is 2. And those sort of things happen all over the board. So like up here, like I said earlier, for the boat, the amount of sails that you get is based on your strength. So let's say instead, the round had gone on, people had done their things, and for the last patrician, you only get 3 per round. The blue player places it here. They would take this action with a strength of 1, and this action with a strength of 3. So they would have 3 sails to spend moving along this track. The strength affects the actions in different ways, which I already explained. But what makes this so interesting, especially in a 2-player game, is the strength of your action can be manipulated, and it can be targeted, and it can be attacked, and it can be defended. And that just gives the whole game a very political and very tactical feel. So in a 2-player game, you will place one of your patricians, and then you will place one that blocks another spot. And like I said, only 1 patrician can go in each spot, so the blue player can now no longer, or the pink player, put something here. And in this game, it's very easy to tell who's ahead on what aspect, or on various aspects of the game. So that blocking mechanism can be very mean and very targeted, and normally you will block them knowing what they're going for. And at the beginning of the round, which also adds even more fun to this element, is the top tile of this emperor stack will be flipped, and the emperor will be placed in whatever spot, any one of the spots that the tile outlays or lays out. So this is what the tile looks like, and you'll see that it's the full grid with 2 spots that are dedicated to the emperor. The first player will choose which spot the emperor is going to go in for that round. And from now on, those actions, so this row and this column, has an additional strength to it. So if the pink player puts their patrician here, they have a strength of 2. So this is like a neutral marker that will add strength to your action. And that initial decision is actually so interesting because it sets the whole scope for the round. It allows other people to see what actions are going to be stronger, and sometimes it can give incentive or insight as to what actions the first player is going for that round. So if I'm going for boats and I put this emperor as the first player, I put that emperor in the boat row, then the other players know that I want boats to be stronger that round. And for some reason, I want that to be the case. So whenever you're blocking spaces, perhaps you'll block a space, like the boat spaces, to take that away from certain people, because it's possible that I can have 2 patricians here and somebody like the blue player doesn't want me to take this one, right? Or I guess in this case it'd be like this. They don't want me to get a level 3 action or a strength 3 action, so maybe they'll put their patrician there, and then when they block, they'll block this space, blocking out the whole row. So this element of like blocking strength, increasing strength is just so interesting. This whole grid is just like a political game, and it's very interactive. And even though all these mini games kind of happen on their own islands, this is really what brings it all together and makes everything so interactive. So I hope that was at least a little bit of a decent overview of what makes this grid so unique. The worker placement mechanism itself is very interesting, how you are getting to take 2 actions every turn, and the frequency in which you take those actions during the round will determine your strength of that action. And with the combination of that and other players being able to block spots from you and be able to see what you're going for and try to kind of balance out this whole concept of, okay, is this better for me, or is it better that I block them? Like, which path should I go down? Should I focus on what's good for me, or is there any way I can do something that's kind of good for me that also blocks the opponent? And this grid, this just simple 4x4 grid, takes this game and really makes it interactive and makes you it makes what other players do very important, because like I can't necessarily control that the other player is getting far on the chariot track. Like, they're doing that on their own, and I'm not necessarily tracking how far their boat is on the track or what buildings they're putting out. But I can at least see a general overview of their strategy based on looking at this grid, and that can drive the game for you. So for a game that's just so widespread and kind of feels like a bunch of mini games going on, this grid just makes everything feel connected, and it makes you feel like you have control over what you're doing while also having control of what other players are doing. And you can see people's trajectory and really define your own. So Nova Roma is a game that I'm really enjoying right now. I can't wait to play it more. It feels political and it feels mean, but there's not that many spaces, so everything that you do has to benefit you in some way, so people can't get too upset. But yeah, this game is just great. Nova Roma, definitely check it out. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. These are 3 strategy Euro-ish games that I'm really enjoying right now. They all have just this little element that makes them so unique and makes me want to keep coming back. I highly recommend you check them out. If you've checked them out and you liked them or didn't like them, let me know in the comments. I want to know what your thoughts are. This is kind of my first time doing a video like this where I'm trying to give an overview of a game, so I hope I did a good job, and I hope to make more videos like this in the future. And specifically, I hope to talk more about the heavier strategy games that I really enjoy. So thank you for watching. I'm Antonio. Bye.